All right, for today, we're going to be dealing with cases for probability, when cases are independent and when cases are not independent. So for questions 5 through 8, let's take a look at our examples. Questions 5 through 8, we have that events A and B are independent. So the formula we're going to be using for this case, we're going to say that probability of A times the probability of B is equal to the probability of A and B. What do I mean with this? How are you guys going to use this in real life? Probability of A, let's say I have some dice, and then I want to say, I want to know what's the probability that I land at 6 on a dice. My probability of B is I have a coin, heads or tails. So for this one, I want to know what's the probability that I roll a dice and I get a 6, and I flip the coin and I get, what's the probability of that? So that's probability of A and probability of B. Or any other cases. So, but I'm just gonna look at probability of A times probability of B equals probability of A and B. So for question number 5, I don't know probability of A, right? It has a question mark. So I'm gonna call it X. I'm gonna say X times the probability of A. I don't know. Now I look, what's the probability of B? Probability of B is 13 over 20 equals 13 over 50. All right, so I'm looking at how can I get my X by itself. The way I could do this is I could divide by 13 over 20. But when I divide by a fraction, don't I just multiply by the reciprocal? Right? If I'm going to divide by a fraction, didn't we learn that it was easier to just multiply by the reciprocal? So I'm going to divide by 13 over 20. So that's going to cancel on the left side. But on the right side, I'm going to multiply 20 over 13. Like I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal. So that means that x equals, let me simplify the 13 over 13, they cancel out. 20 and 50, they simplify as 2 and a 5. So when I cross multiply, I 2 over 5. So x equals 2 over 5. When you type it, you just have to type in the 2 over 5. Remember how the way we do fractions is 2 backslash 5. All right, question number 6. Probability of A, I know what's probability of A, is 2 over 5. Probability of B is 3 over 4. Probability of A and B, I don't know what that is. That is X. So now here, I'm just going to multiply. But remember, before I multiply straight, when I simplify the 2 and the 4, I'm going to simplify that as 1 and 2. So when I multiply straight on top and straight at the bottom. I'm going to say my X is equal to 3 over 10. Now let's take a look at number 7. Probability of A is 7 over 20. Probability of B, I don't know what probability of B is. So I'm just going to call it X. Probability of A and B is 91 over 400. All right, so that's all. I'm going to divide by 7 over 20, but that's basically saying I'm going to multiply by 20 over 7. All right, let me simplify. 20 and 400, that becomes 1 and 2. I divided each by 20. Now 91 and 7, you can divide each by 7. 91 divided by 7, see, is 13. So I'm going to multiply on top, and I'm just going to get x is equal to 13 over 20. When you type it, make sure you just type in the number. You don't have to type in x equals for the homework. Now let's take a look at number 8. Probability of A. Remember, I'm doing the formula. Probability of A times probability of B equals probability of A and B. All right, so probability of A is 1/2. Probability of B, I don't know what I have for probability, so I'm just going to call it X, equals probability of A and B is 11/40. So I'm going to divide by 1/2, which is basically multiplying by 2/1, multiplied by the reciprocal. So I get 11/20. So X is equal to 11/20. All right, that was not that bad. Now, what if I'm not told the events A and B are independent? What if I'm not told they are independent? What if I'm just told find the missing probability? All right, let me give myself some room at the bottom. Now here, I'm going to use two different cases. Depends on the information that I'm given. For space purposes, I'm going to write the formula here at the bottom. Now, the formulas I'm going to use is probability of A and B. So probability of A and B is equal to probability of A times probability of B not. So it's basically probability of A times the probability of B not A. That's if I have probability of A. But then I'm looking at question number 12. There I have probability of B. Okay, so for questions like number 12, the other formula I'm going to use is probability of A and B is equal to probability of B times probability of A not B. So depending on the information, if I have probability of A somewhere in there, I'm going to use the first formula. If I have probability of B somewhere in there, I'm going to use the second formula. So depending on the information that I have. So question number 9, I see that I'm solving for probability of A. So I'm going to use the first formula here. The way I'm going to do this, I'm going to say probability of A and B, so that's 9/50, is equal to probability of A. I don't know what probability of A is. The probability of B not A is 3/10. The way I'm going to get the X by itself, I'm going to divide 3/10, which is basically saying multiplied by 10/3. Multiply by the reciprocal, simplify the fraction. Let's see, my 9 and my 3. When I multiply straight on top and straight at the bottom, I get that X is equal to 3/5. Right? How to multiply fractions, I think we should all know that right at this moment. Now let's take a look at question number 10. I see I'm given probability of A, so I'm going to be using the first formula. So according to my formula, probability of A and B, that's 1/50, equals probability of A is 2/5 times probability of B not A is X. I don't know what that is. So I'm going to divide by 2/5, which is basically saying I'm going to multiply it by 5/2. Let me simplify my fraction. So I'm going to get that X is equal to 1/20. Remember, multiply that 1 times 1 and 2 times 10. All right, let's take a look at question number 11. I'm given probability of A, so I'm going to be using the first formula. So I have probability of A and B is 3 over 8. Probability of A is 1/2. Probability of B not A is X, 'cause I know it is. So in order for me to solve for X, I'm going to divide the 1/2, which is basically multiplying by 2 over 1. So I simplify, and I'm going to get that X is equal to 3 over 4. Take a look at question number 12. I'm given probability of B, so that means I'm going to be using the second formula. So I have probability of A and B, that's 21 over 200, equals probability of B is 1 over 4. Probability of A not B, I don't know what that is, so I'm calling it X. So in order to divide by 1/4, I'm going to multiply the other side as well by 4 over 1. So let me simplify 4 and 200. That becomes 1 and 50. So I'm going to end up getting that X is equal to 21 over 50.